Hi, I'm Margie from Marjorie's Candies, and I'm going to make an apple pie today. What you're going to need is a 10-inch top and bottom crust pie for this particular recipe. And I already have a YouTube video up for the pie crust, okay? So you have that set aside. You see I already have one made. And you'll need 1 cup of sugar, 1/3 cup of flour, a teaspoon of cinnamon and nutmeg, both, and a dash of salt, 8 cups of apples, pared, cored, and sliced. That's approximately 7. Some of the apples are pretty big nowadays, but it's about 7. 3 tablespoons of butter, a little squeeze of lemon, and an egg, and a sprinkle of sugar for the crust. So I'm going to show you how I pare the apples, only because you see how thick I do them. I think that's good to know. Okay. So these are green apples, actually. They're Granny Smith apples. You can use any kind of apple that you like. Some apples will are softer or sweeter, and they cook a little differently. Some people like to use several different kinds of apples in their pie. And so they get, different flavors. But I like to do it sort of the old-fashioned way. I use the Granny Smith apples. And taste your apples, because if they're very sweet, you might want to cut back on the sugar. Granny Smiths happen to have a tendency to be a little bit tart. This is an old-fashioned recipe, and it did call, actually, I put a cup of sugar up there, but you'll see that I have a little less sugar, because these apples aren't really actually all that tart. You kind of have to do it to taste. It's the flour really that does the thickening of the pie. Okay, so there's our apples, and what we want to do, we will take our sugar and our flour. Okay, I have in here freshly ground nutmeg and cinnamon, a teaspoon of each, and some salt. I like to combine all the ingredients first. That way, everything coats it more evenly, okay? I'm going to just pour that on. I'm going to toss the apples. With the flour. When you cut your apples, you might want to put a little squeeze of lemon on them if you're concerned about them turning brown. They oxidize a little bit if they sit for a while, but you don't really need to do that if you're just going to bake them. Nobody will know if they turned a little bit brown. As you can see, they already look brown with all the cinnamon and nutmeg on them. If you're using fresh nutmeg, by the way, be careful. It might be a little less than a teaspoon, because fresh is always a little bit stronger. Okay. So we will get our pie, and we can just go ahead and put the apples in. This is sort of considered a deep dish apple pie. If you need to have a recipe for something a little smaller, just let me know, because I can give that to you. You want it to be pretty full, because it'll cook down. Okay. Alrighty, so what we want to do now is put a little bit of butter. We'll dot it with butter, with 3 tablespoons of butter here. Okay. And then you can put another little squeeze of lemon if you want, just over it, just a teeny bit. Oh, there's a seed. And then we're going to slide our crust over the top. And actually what you can do is you can, we want to get it to move a little bit. On here. Okay. Oh, if it doesn't move, you can flop it in half. And just bring it halfway. And bring it the other half of the way. Okay. Now you can take, I like to take an apple, Neg. Okay, let's give it a little bit of a mix there. And I like to brush it. Don't worry about it if it's not perfect. Nothing I ever do is perfect. I have to get used to that. I think I've gotten used to that. Okay. Now, I have a scissor here. What you want to do is you want to trim around where you have maybe a little bit too much. Okay. A little too much crust. And I like to just gently fold it under, and I go around the outside. And I don't ever really press my crust together, because I just think it just might make it a little bit tough. So I kind of just fold it under, go around. That egg wash will make it a little bit shiny later on after it's baked, and also it gives the, I like to sprinkle it with a little bit of sugar. Okay. And the very last thing that you need to do, that's probably only about a tablespoon of sugar, is you want to cut little holes in the crust so it will, it'll vent. Some of the steam will vent from the apples, so I just kind of just make little holes and I pull them out. People can cut all kinds of decorations. They can use little cookie cutters, and you can have a lot of fun with it. In fall, you can use little leaf cutters. It's very fun. You can do whatever you want, but I like to do sort of traditional things. And the very last thing that I like to do before I put it into the oven is I have this little piece of aluminum foil that I had a big square and I did it in fourths. Okay, and I kind of measured how wide it was. And I just made a mark and I cut a little circle. Okay. All right, sometimes you have to fold it over. What you're trying to do is keep the edges from burning, so you want to put it on well enough that it'll stay. And then I have the circle for later on if this part gets a little bit brown. And that's really all there is to it. Okay. There we go. Now the oven needs to be on 425. And we're going to bake it for about 45 minutes. It's going to take a little bit longer than that, and we'll check it, maybe 50 minutes, okay? We're going to see when it starts to bubble is when it's done. Okay, the pie is ready, I'm almost positive, so let's take it out and take a look. I've been checking it, we just didn't really have enough time. So let's see if it's boiling. It should be bubbling in there. Oh, it is bubbling, see right there. The pie has a nice and light brown. And this goes great, of course, with I like vanilla ice cream. I like to keep things simple. But you'd want to wait a little while for it to cool down, and probably a couple of hours. And I hope you guys enjoy it. If you have any questions, let me know. Thank you very much. Bye.